Welcome to Hochoka Podcast.
This season, Joseph Marshall III and I spoke about the power of storytelling to change hearts and minds and motivate for change. Learn about his new novel, Sing for the Red Dress, and how he hopes it will impact the MMIP landscape. Hello, Mitakiepi, and welcome to Hochoka, here at the center of St. Joseph's Indian Schools campus. I am Scott Wooster, today's Hochoka host. Joseph Marshall III, a frequent Hochoka guest, is a historian, writer, teacher, craftsman, administrator, actor, and public speaker. He joins us to discuss one of his newest works, Sing for the Red Dress. So this season, among other subjects, we explore both Native literature and missing and murdered Indigenous persons. And I think this new novel of yours, if I'm understanding it right, spans both topics, and
Right.
I think that's significant. Can you tell us why?
Sure. It's first of all, it's a topic that I've been interested in for a long time. Mm-hmm. And years ago, when I was forming the idea for a story, I started checking into some of the statistics of missing people in general, mm-hmm. and then focused on Native people. Mm-hmm. And they're horrendous. They're scary. Mm-hmm. And then, to my further dismay, I found out that essentially no one's doing anything about it. Mm-hmm. And that's the saddest part of this dilemma. So I wrestled with the idea of whether or not to develop a story to deal with it, because at the time I didn't know enough about it, the statistics and the situation in general. But I decided that to focus on one character, one family, one situation, and develop it from there. So that's how it started.
Okay.
And to me, one novel isn't going to solve the problem.
Right.
But hopefully it can draw attention to the situation to a wider audience. Mm-hmm. And maybe that'll help in some small way.
Absolutely.
But we need to know more about it. We need to educate people about what's been going on with especially Native women, for decades.
Right.
I mean, the number of missing Native women and young men, but especially women, is high.
Yeah.
And there are families in Indian country who have not seen their daughters are gone.
Right. Right.
And some of them turned up murdered,
yeah.
or dead.
Yeah.
So to say it's a tragic and sad story doesn't really do it justice, mm-hmm. really, especially as far as those families are concerned.
Right.
So then I learned about the Red Dress Society that a friend of mine has in Rapid City, mm-hmm. Billy Mendoza. And I found out the reason they chose the red dress is because a lot of indigenous cultures believe that red, especially Lakota, believe that red is the only color that the spirits on the other side can see when somebody passes over. So, hence someone formed the Red Dress Society. And I think that started in Canada somewhere, the idea of the red dress or the red skirt. So I thought that was very compelling. It's a factor that it has to be in the story. Mm-hmm. So that, and the fact that we as a culture have honor songs. We sing for just about anybody, for any reason. So that's why I chose the title of the novel, Sing for the Red Dress, mm-hmm. because it signifies missing and murdered Indigenous women especially. And that's why the story, the novel, is based on two things. One woman who's significant to our hero is kidnapped. But in the meantime, he has been concerned and he has a friend who is a police officer who's been concerned with the whole situation of missing Native women. And it's set on a mythical reservation in South Dakota called Smoky River. And there's been missing young ladies for a long, long time. And he's concerned about it, and he's trying to get people to help, at least, learn about the situation and figure out what to do about it. And then his fiancée gets kidnapped. And so that really brings the story into focus for him.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes personal. It's not just something that happens to other people.
Right.
So because he has the means to, he's a well-educated man who can gather resources to look for his fiancée himself, even though the police are on her trail. So this is a story of two things, where he engages people to help him look for his fiancée and pursues all the clues that are there. And eventually he does find her, but in the process he and his friend, the police officer, find a group of missing Lakota girls who have been gone for 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they're being used for very nefarious reasons.
Right.
They're being trafficked for sex.
Yep.
So he finds them, and they figure out a way to rescue those girls. So hopefully interwoven in that story is the whole situation of that's been plaguing us for a long, long time, and also in it are reminders that we as Lakota people once revered our women more than we do now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the problem,
mm-hmm.
because we don't look after our women, we don't care for our women, we don't respect our women the way we used to.
Mm-hmm.
We've kind of succumbed to the European mindset of the male-dominated society. Mm-hmm. Ours was not that way.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least, women were equal partners in everything, and in most instances more important because they are the purveyors of life.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the European influence, we've forgotten that.
Right.
So again, through the story, hopefully it's a subtle reminder that we need to go back to that way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe in order to help solve this problem.
Yeah.
So that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and it's a tribute to women,
exactly.
to grandmothers, to mothers,
exactly.
to daughters,
Yep.
granddaughters. You mentioned that you feel like you were a little late to the party, maybe in recognizing
right.
that the issue was there, and I think, and I certainly have been the same,
mm-hmm.
But I don't think that information was out there. I don't think that a lot of people were aware of it, and I think that the more that we can do, and there's people doing small parts
right.
all over the place,
yeah.
but I've noticed that just in the last few years, the amount of people doing the small parts has steadily grown,
yeah.
and it's time for everybody to understand this and to protect our women together.
Yes.
We have events here on campus where we have the kids come together,
mm-hmm.
and we do songs for them, we talk to them, we explain the issue for them in as
mm-hmm.
sensitive a way as we can, with young children all the way up
right.
to teenage girls and boys too, because
right.
they, like you said, the boys need to understand that this
yes.
is their issue as well. So I've learned a ton about that. Writing a book about it
mm-hmm.
can only help to be a part of the solution to
sure.
something that's difficult. And
yes.
Like we said in the header, this book kind of covers what we're doing in the Ho-Chokeh season,
mm-hmm.
which is you've got your native literature, your storytelling,
sure.
and your MMIW stuff.
Right.
Now you've given sort of spoiler alert for our folks, but you give
right.
away as much of your own book as you want to give.
Sure.
Plot.
Absolutely.
That's your right at this point.
Right.
Where are we going to find the book? Where can we? When will it be out?
I think last I heard from the publisher was that it might be out this fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll look forward to hopefully seeing it
yeah,
soon.
so I just now finished the last final edits and sent it back to her.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that it'll stay on track and be out sometime October,
okay.
maybe, somewhere in there.
In all the good places. Bookstores,
absolutely.
online.
All the usual places, yeah.
Yep.
Online, of course, all the big bookstores and so forth.
Yep. audiobooks? Do you do an audiobook with it?
The plan is to do an audiobook for this one, yeah.
And do you read your own
Oh, yeah.
audio?
I do.
Absolutely.
I
yeah.
do. Yeah.
Yep. Excellent. So you mentioned Lily Mendoza,
Right.
and this season on Hochoka podcast, I had the honor and privilege of having her in the seat where you
Right.
are now. And she is part of the Ribbon Skirt Society,
Sure.
as you mentioned earlier.
Right.
And she joined Hochoka about the same topic. And before I chase this thought down, I just want to say in the storytelling piece, you talked about colors in stories and how evocative they are. And
Exactly.
it wasn't something that I would have been conscious of, but I'm going to be more so. But obviously, red in this is huge.
It is.
And you threw that out there a little bit with the
Sure.
idea of the red skirt and spirits
Yes.
being able to connect with the color red, and you make prayer ties and wrap them in red
Some of
and
them are red, yeah.
ask for help. Lily told us about the society and what they do, and we called one of her vlogs or podcasts
Yeah.
"If These Skirts Could Speak,"
Could speak.
which I really like.
Right.
And paired with your title, I
Yeah.
like the way those are
Right.
juxtaposed. I think that's nice. But she advises young women and families about preventive measures that they can take
Absolutely.
to not become
Right.
victims of this horrible thing.
Right.
Because as you said, it's staggering and it's horrendous, and there's no way that we can even comprehend exactly what this means, that somebody
Yeah.
would do something this base to
Right.
somebody. So the idea in her podcast is that if missing and murdered Indigenous persons could speak to us, what would they say? Both about how to prevent this, and in their personal stories, just about the problem at large to help us understand it. So I'm going to pose the same question to you, which would be, your character in your novel, what would she say to us about preventative measures and about the problem at large?
Right.
And what do you think she would say?
Right. In the novel, I use 3 characters to impart that message. One, a professional risk manager. Another one, a policeman.
Okay.
And then the other one is the person who's been through it.
Yeah.
And the message is the same. Be aware. I have daughters. I have 4 daughters. So I worry about this issue all the time. They're all adults now, but they live in different parts of this country. And one is married, the others are still single. So to me, it's a worry all the time. So I've tried to teach them awareness. I taught them simple things like stay off the phone in the parking lot from the store to your car. Don't use your phone. Be aware of what's around you.
Yeah.
Look at who's walking near you. And before you get to your car, take the keys out of your pocket or your handbag, and don't unlock the car until you're right up to it. Those very simple kind of things can save your life. It can prevent you from being abducted. Because the biggest thing, the biggest worry I have is for them to have just this focus on things in front of them and not behind or around them.
Right.
So just to teach them to look around, to swivel their head, to see what's there, what car is going by, what person is approaching you, and be aware of everything you hear. It's so essential. None of us do that all the time.
No.
And we just go.
Yeah.
We just own in our own little world, on our own little path. But even in the simplest of settings, there's a broader perspective. And we have to be aware of that.
Yeah.
So that's the message.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have 4 daughters myself. 3 are married and one's a teenager.
Right.
And they do, especially teenagers, young men, young women,
Yes.
think it's never going to happen to
That's
them.
right.
And I would love to say
Yeah.
that as an older guy that I have it all figured out and
Yeah.
understand that it could happen to me. But we all kind of walk around in that
Yeah.
state where I'm safe, I'm secure,
Yeah.
and I don't want we don't want our girls to walk
No.
around hyper vigilant all the time, being afraid of the
Right.
world, but they have to be
Exactly.
at some point.
Exactly.
So your character in this story, I don't want you to give away how she was abducted. You mentioned she'd been kidnapped, so I'll leave it
Right.
at that. But you know what happened to her.
Sure.
So my guess is she would have something specific to say to young women
Exactly.
about her
Exactly.
specific situation.
Right. Anybody who's been through that
Yeah.
is going to have the lesson of don't do this.
Don't do what I did.
Don't do what I did.
Yeah.
Don't make the mistake I did.
Yeah.
And you know, when somebody who has been through it delivers that message, is very, very powerful.
Absolutely. And the second part of the question, so talked about prevention. What do you think your character would say about the problem at large? I mean, how would she view? And maybe that's wrapped up in the book.
Well, for me, and the whole message of the book is that more people need to be aware of it. Not enough people are aware.
Yeah.
Not enough politicians. Not enough police officers. Not enough social workers. Whoever, and parents and grandparents.
Yeah.
We have to be aware that this is a problem, and we have to impart that to our daughters and granddaughters and our nieces and everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, that this is the way the world is right now, unfortunately.
Yep.
So when you go out there, you do need to be aware and on guard.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that your book hopefully will do exactly
hope,
that, what
yes.
you intended to, which is to
Exactly.
bring awareness to this, which we're all trying to do. And the more
Right.
people we reach, maybe we save.
It's a step.
Yep, it is. And if we can save one, that's
and then-
worth
exactly.
writing the book.
Exactly.
So we want to thank you for your book, of course,
Sure.
and we want to thank you for your time here at
My
Hochoka.
pleasure.
It's always good to have you here, Wopila, for
Always
being
good to
with
be
us.
here. Thank you.
And we'd like to thank our viewers, our audience, for being here at Hochoka, at the center of St. Joseph's Indian School campus, where we talk about issues that are central to Native American education today. Until next time, stay centered.